Grandpa made it clear before he died, no cremation. He had to be buried in the ancestral tomb. The night of his burial, my eldest uncle's entire family of 6 was found hanging dead in their home, all under bizarre circumstances. Aaron gasped. A human ghoul fulfilling a karmic trial? The old man was trying to become immortal. The 6 of them died in the same eerie way, blood trickling from every orifice, toes pointed downward, tongues lolling grotesquely from their mouths, all hanging from the beams. The villagers whispered among themselves, casting strange glances. They said it was my grandpa who killed them. Someone said they heard my uncle's wife wailing all night, crying, "Father-in-law, please spare us." With how strange and terrifying the deaths were, my dad didn't know what to do. He rushed someone up the mountain to bring Aaron back. Aaron had been a Taoist priest before. Whenever something happened in the village, people turned to him. As soon as he arrived and saw the scene, his face changed. My dad ran up, trembling. "Aaron, something terrible has happened." Aaron suppressed his shock and immediately sensed something was wrong. How was the old man buried? Cremated? He asked. No. He insisted we not cremate him and said he had to be buried in the ancestral tomb. My dad replied, confused. Does that have anything to do with this? Just days before, my dad and uncle had finished arranging Grandpa's funeral. In his younger days, Grandpa traveled all over and picked up all sorts of strange folk techniques. 2 weeks ago, he went on a trip. When he came back, he fell seriously ill, stuck in a dazed, half-conscious state. Right before he died, he suddenly had a moment of lucidity and could speak again. He called my dad and uncle to his side and said, "I won't make it past tonight, but there's one thing you must do. Do not cremate me. Bury me in the family's ancestral graveyard." Grandpa's exact words were, "My element fears fire. If you cremate me, something terrible will happen." My dad and uncle promised him they'd do it, and after that, Grandpa closed his eyes and passed away. They followed his instructions, buried him in the ancestral plot, and gave him a proper burial. "That's it?" Aaron asked suspiciously. "In our village, it's tradition to bury the dead in the ancestral grave. It's not an unusual request, but it couldn't be that simple." Aaron told my dad to think carefully. Was there anything else out of the ordinary? "Wait!" Dad looked up. "Before he died, the old man somehow got his hands on a coffin." "What kind?" Aaron pressed. "It was narrow at the top and wide at the bottom, with a hexagonal head. Very strange. It had bronze bells hanging from it, and carvings of cranes and spirit birds on the sides." At that, Aaron sneered. "Did he also tell you to bury him vertically, head up and feet down?" My dad nodded vigorously. "Yes." "And you actually did it?" "Yes, we did." "You fools. The old bastard wanted to become immortal. He used you as his tribulation sacrifices," Aaron said, barely containing his anger. "A coffin for the dead is wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. Only the living use ones that are narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. And a hexagonal head? That's a return coffin. The bronze bells are soul-calling bells. Coffins like this, people go centuries without ever seeing one." Aaron said Grandpa must have dug up some ancient immortal's coffin from hundreds or even thousands of years ago. Then he used a long-lost secret technique to attempt a vertical burial, trying to absorb heaven and earth's energy and shed his mortal shell. He wanted to become an immortal. Aaron pointed at my uncle's family's corpses. "That old bastard's turned into a human ghoul. He'll start with those closest to him. He's using you as his trial." "That's impossible. He's my father. The kid's grandfather. Why would he hurt us?" My dad cried in disbelief. You think someone aiming for immortality cares about that? Aaron sneered. To him, you're the biggest obstacle. Once you're all dead, he'll have no attachments left. Nothing to hold him back from transcending. And besides... Besides what? Dad asked urgently. Aaron snorted. You know how much fortune it takes to ascend? Let's not even talk about whether he had the destiny. That immortal he dug up had been lying in that coffin for centuries, waiting to ascend, and your father ruined it. He stole the coffin, sabotaged someone else's chance, and thinks he can take their place. You think he can bear that karma? Aaron's gaze darkened as he looked at my dad. He's already a human ghoul. If we don't find a way to suppress him, once your entire family's dead and he sheds his human form, no one will be able to stop him. The whole village will die. The villagers gasped, terror in their eyes. Aaron ordered several lychee trees cut down. He said the uncle's family had to be burned first. If not, they'd turn into walking corpses tonight. Once the lychee wood was stacked, he told those born in the year of the dragon and the tiger to cut the bodies down and lay them on the wood. Lychee wood carries yang energy. The moment the corpses touched it, white smoke began to sizzle up, and their limbs started to twitch grotesquely. Aaron changed into his Taoist robes and drove peach wood nails into each of their chests. At noon, he lit yellow talismans to ignite the wood. The fire roared, and the bodies thrashed wildly in the flames, waving their arms as chilling screams pierced the air. Once the bodies were completely burned, the air was filled with the stench of charred flesh. Aaron collected the ashes, sealed them in an urn with a yellow talisman. After witnessing the horrific sight of the corpses flailing in the fire, no one in the village doubted Aaron's words anymore. Aaron, save us. We don't want to die. The villagers crowded around him, begging for a solution. Aaron glared at my dad. That old bastard has lost his mind. He's now a bloodthirsty ghoul with no family left in his heart. You and Jennifer are his next targets. Then we need to dig him up and burn him too, Dad asked anxiously. Too late. Aaron was right. By the time we reached the Delaney family's ancestral grave, a chill ran down my spine. The entire cemetery had been dug up. Dozens of black, decaying skeletons had crawled out from their graves. Aaron told my dad to dig up Grandpa's grave. After a few shovelfuls, blood began seeping out. Stop digging! Aaron stopped him. A vertical burial like that breeds evil. Grandpa's corpse had already merged with the earth's chi. He was neither alive nor dead, steeped in resentment. That burial site, once blessed with excellent feng shui, had become cursed by his half-alive arrangement. The skeletons crawling out were stirred by the malignant energy. His tomb was now full of deathly chi. If we kept digging, the corpse would reanimate, and Aaron hadn't set up any restraints yet. After a moment's silence, Aaron said, "The ghoul will come for you and Jennifer tonight. If you survive, I'll set up everything to suppress him afterward. And if we don't?" Dad asked. "There is no if," Aaron said through gritted teeth. He said Grandpa would return tonight, and he was coming for me and my dad. He wouldn't rest until every Delaney was dead, so I had to keep vigil at the Delaney family tomb. I asked why my dad couldn't do it. Aaron gave him a resigned glance. My dad, hiding among the villagers, glared at me coldly. "I'm your father. You don't tell me what to do, you little bitch." He'd never liked me, just because I wasn't a son. After I was born, Mom's health deteriorated, and when I was 7, she disappeared. Dad always said she ran off with another man. I turned my head away, unable to face his hateful eyes. Aaron had someone find a piece of sunken wood to make a puppet. Sunken wood is the kind buried underground for centuries, never seeing the light of day. Aaron carved it into a lifelike human figure. Then he pricked my fingertip and dotted a red mark on the puppet. He said sunken wood wards off evil. But isn't sunken wood extremely yin? How can it ward off evil? I asked. Aaron's expression turned venomous as he stared at me. Smack! My dad slapped me across the face. Just do what Aaron tells you. Enough with the questions. You want me dead? My cheeks swelled instantly. I glanced back at Aaron. He was still staring coldly. You know it's yin, huh? But everything in this world has opposites. Just do as I say. He brought out a coffin and told me to hide inside. I didn't want to. So Dad slapped me again and again until he shoved me in. Inside lay the puppet carved from sunken wood. It had my face. Its blank eyes stared at me in the dark. I was terrified. I tried to climb out, but Dad nailed the coffin and shut himself, leaving only a small hole for air. That's when I realized he hadn't put me here to keep vigil. He was offering me as a sacrifice to Grandpa. They wanted me dead. I pounded on the coffin with all my might, but no one answered. The sky outside grew darker. Through the tiny hole, I could see a scattering of stars. Crows cawed endlessly outside. It must have been the cursed hour. Oppressive clouds loomed over the sky in a heavy gray. Boom! Something burst out from underground. A horrifying sound echoed from the graveyard. It was the march of 100 corpses. At the same time, I heard what sounded like countless hands scratching at the coffin lid. Thump! 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 Something hopped closer and closer, then stopped right in front of the coffin. The wooden effigy inside, carved in human form, was pressed right against my face, smiling at me. My chest tightened. On the brow of the sunken wood carving, Aaron had drawn a red dot with my blood. Now, it was glowing eerily. At some point, blood-red talismanic symbols had appeared on the dark coffin walls, glistening like fresh blood. The sounds outside the coffin grew more violent. The lid was being clawed at furiously. I could only imagine it was my grandpa, now a human ghoul, who had caught the scent of my bloodline. His nails had grown long and sharp. His glowing green eyes leapt closer and closer, trying to pry the coffin open, but every time he touched it, the glowing red symbols flared and drove him back. He bared his fangs and roared like a beast. My heart pounded. I covered my mouth tightly, haunted by the image of Uncle's entire family hanging dead. What was that? A chillin', creepy laughter echoed from within the coffin. I slowly turned my head. The expression on the sunken wood figure began shifting. Child, elder, young, old. It was like 1,000 faces struggling in agony, twisting and writhing. The red glyphs floating around the coffin melted into thick, sticky blood, rising to engulf me. So cold, bone-chilling cold. Jennifer, Jennifer, Jennifer. I looked down. The wooden effigy was clinging to my chest, its eyes fixed on me. Its mouth moved, calling my name. I couldn't take it anymore and screamed in terror. Right then, my body suddenly sank to the bottom of the coffin. Putrid blood flooded my mouth and nose. My chest felt like it was filled with lead. I flailed wildly inside. Just as I was about to lose consciousness and drown in the blood, crack, the coffin lid was torn open. My whole body felt like it was burning. Grandpa, his face barely hanging onto flesh, leaned his head in. Through the bloody coffin water, we locked eyes. I was shaking violently in fear, my eyes wide. The suffocating pressure left me speechless. Grandpa was covered in black fur. His skin was shriveled and clung to his bones. He exhaled a foul, rancid breath into my face. I felt like I was going to choke to death. Countless grotesque faces on the sunken wood effigy let out piercing shrieks and started biting at me. They weren't tearing flesh, they were devouring my soul. Wisps of translucent soul were shredded and swallowed. My brain felt like it was being stabbed with needles. I couldn't help but cry out in pain. As soon as I opened my mouth, those blood-soaked faces rushed in and poured into my chest. I clutched my throat, unable to breathe. Just as my soul was about to be torn apart, a faint and sinister light flashed before my eyes. At some point, the moonlight had broken through the clouds, shining down onto Grandpa's ghoulish form. His green eyes burned brighter. "Roar!" He howled and swung his arms, fingers like blades, slashing toward my chest. The pain was unbearable. Blinding red flooded my vision. Screams echoed endlessly. Huff! I opened my eyes. Dawn was breaking. A pale gray mist blanketed everything. In front of me was the shattered coffin. The once red runes had turned black, coiled like demonic worms, radiating dread. I was drenched as if I'd been pulled from a river, lying in front of Grandpa's grave. Hundreds of Delaney ancestors' skeletons surrounded me tightly. The sunken wood effigy Aaron carved had split open. Inside were dead corpse worms, white and still. Was it a dream? I tried to get up, but the pain in my body made my teeth chatter. My chest was soaked in blood. Gritting through the pain, I lifted my shirt. My chest was a bloody mess. Intricate, ancient lines formed talismanic glyphs. I staggered in the direction of home. From afar, I caught the stench of blood. Thick green fog covered the ruined bricks, collapsed courtyard walls, and creaking wooden doors. Inside the yard were twisted corpses, eyes wide open in death. Dead. They were all dead. The entire village. Only the sobs of ghosts remained, no sound of the living. I broke down screaming, running wildly through the mist. Along the way, I saw one body after another, each dying in unspeakable horror. In the fog ahead, I glimpsed a blurry figure. I froze, too afraid to speak. The person turned around. "You're still alive?" It was Aaron. Panic covered his face as he ran over, staring at me. "You weren't supposed to survive." What did he mean I wasn't supposed to survive? Seeing my face pale, Aaron quickly changed his tone. "You saw it, right? Everyone's dead. The whole village. The human ghoul has emerged. I can't stop it anymore." He was losing it, shouting frantically. "No! I have to trap him here! There has to be a way!" Aaron grabbed me. "You're still alive. That means he hasn't passed the trial. You can't become immortal until you're dead." "Yes, you're still alive. If he can't kill you, then no matter how many others die, he can't shed his human form." Aaron stared at me, then dragged me back home. On our front door were plastered talismans. A white soul banner fluttered above, and on the ground at the threshold sat 6 little dolls, each uniquely shaped. Seeing it, Aaron's face showed some confusion. As he approached, he sneered. Some tricks after all." He glanced at me. "Your dad's alive too." No sooner had he said it than the front door opened. My dad stumbled out, crying hysterically as he crawled to Aaron's feet. "Help me! Help me! Last night! "I know." Aaron cut him off. "The old man came back last night, didn't he?" Dad nodded furiously. "He clawed at the door all night, roared non-stop." "I miscalculated," Aaron muttered, regretful. "I should have seen this coming." Aaron explained that because I had the protective sunken wood last night, Grandpa couldn't kill me, so he went after my dad instead. But the barrier on my dad's door kept him out. The ghoul's bloodlust consumed the whole village. Aaron saw the pain on my face and patted my shoulder. "None of this is your fault. That old bastard wanted too much. You should be glad he didn't kill you. If he had, it wouldn't have stopped at just 100 dead." Then what do we do? He's coming back, isn't he? Aaron, save me. I don't want to die. My dad turned and looked at me. Give him Jennifer, can't we? Let him kill Jennifer. Then I can live, right? He glared at me with hate. Why are you still alive? Why didn't you die? You want me dead. I knew it. You'll be the death of me. He raised his hand to slap me. Bang! Aaron grabbed his wrist, his face cold. If Jennifer dies, you still won't live. He wants the entire Delaney bloodline gone. The bond of kinship is the hardest to sever. On the path to immortality, it's called karmic burden. Grandpa had pulled every trick he could find, even used a return coffin, all to ascend. But becoming a human ghoul meant he had to eliminate his karmic ties. That meant us. With Uncle's family dead, only Dad and I were left. Wasn't it a shame for you that I didn't die last night? I asked Dad. He froze, eyes flashing with panic. Then he looked to Aaron. Aaron growled, "What are you looking at me for?" Dad quickly lowered his head. "What's going on?" Aaron pointed at the talismans and the 6 dolls. "Who gave these to you?" Dad stammered. What's wrong with them?" "I asked you who gave them to you." Aaron's eyes sharpened. "Don't you understand me? Speak." It was my dad. Before he died, he left me these," said. Dad glanced nervously at Aaron. "Said what?" Aaron pressed. Dad hesitated. Aaron barked. "What did he say?" Dad trembled. "He said, something would definitely happen after he died. Told me to take these things out when the time came." Aaron sneered. "Besides the talismans and those 6 dolls, what else did he leave?" "There's more." Dad ran inside. Not long after, he came back holding a box. The moment Aaron saw it, he stepped back a few paces. "Open it," he ordered. Dad pulled out a Vajra scepter made of bronze, inlaid with turquoise. One end had 3 faces, laughing, crying, furious. The other end was a sharp, triangular point. "The old man said, if he ever came back, use this to pin him down," Dad said. "Aaron, what did he mean?" "Pin him down? You think you can do that?" Aaron snatched the scepter. "I'll do it." At the front gate, he set up a ritual altar, placing drums, gongs, swords, flags, and various tools around it. Finally, he placed the 6 dolls on the altar. They represented 6 ancient crafts: a potter, a blacksmith, a stonemason, a beast tamer, a grass weaver, and a woodcarver, each master of their own trade. Aaron said these were the 6 imperial craftsmen, capable of suppressing a human ghoul. My grandfather had already killed Uncle's entire family and wiped out most of the village. He'd become a force to reckon with. Aaron said grimly, "Even the 6 craftsmen might not be enough to stop him. No matter what we heard tonight, we must not go outside." Night fell. In the near-dead village, ghostly blue flames floated in the air. Within the thick mist, pairs of glowing green eyes flickered walking corpses. Though Aaron had burned some of the villagers Grandpa killed during the day, a few had been missed. Now, under the moonlight and tainted by Grandpa's corpse aura, they had all become low-level, unresolved bones. With the 6 craftsmen by his side, Aaron wasn't afraid of them. His only fear was the human ghoul. After swiftly nailing down a few stray corpses, he burned them using talismans. Suddenly, something changed. The white mist hovering in the air turned yellow. Thump, thump, thump. Though still far off, the heavy footsteps echoed clearly in my ears. My dad heard it too. Under the moonlight, his face went ghostly pale, his lips trembling. "He's coming! He's coming!" Aaron had already burned the talismans and arranged the altar. He bowed respectfully toward the 6 craftsmen. "Fellow Taoists, I beg your aid." After opening the altar, he shouted again into the house. No one comes out. Through the window, I watched Aaron and Grandpa engage in fierce combat, doubts swirling in my mind. Aaron had said Grandpa sought immortality through killing us. But then why did he leave behind so many magical items, these craftsmen, talismans, the Vajra scepter? Weren't they meant to defeat him? Though the fight was intense, and Aaron was once beaten so badly he coughed up blood. At a crucial moment, he sliced open his palm and let blood spill over the 6 craftsmen. "Fellow Taoists, strike now!" He formed a hand seal, and I vaguely saw 6 shadows appear behind him, each holding tools like hoes, chisels, and hammers. The 6 imperial craftsmen were bound by fate and carried the weight of the world. Once they appeared, they trapped Grandpa within the formation. At last, Aaron's eyes were bloodshot, bleeding at the corners. He trembled as he drew a blood talisman on Grandpa's forehead, then pulled out the Vajra scepter, ready to drive it through his heart. Clang. A sound came from the altar. Aaron's expression changed. He turned and saw me stepping out of the house. His gaze turned hateful. "You." "I didn't mean to," I said, backing away a few steps. On the altar, I had accidentally knocked over the carpenter figure among the 6 craftsmen. The formation shattered. Aaron hastily tried to stab Grandpa in the heart with the Vajra scepter, but halfway through, he was swatted aside, slammed hard against a wall. By the time he struggled to get up, Grandpa had already vanished into the thick fog. Smack! Aaron slapped me hard across the face, ignoring the blood at the corner of his lips. "You damned brat! You ruined everything!" His hatred was so intense he looked like he wanted to flay me alive. Everything he'd done was wasted. He weakly pushed open the door, stepped inside, slumped into a chair, gasping for air. From his robes, he pulled out a small bottle, not pills, but a fine ash-like substance. He rolled it in paper, took a few drags, and finally regained some color. My dad, unaware of the full truth, cautiously approached and asked, "How did it go, Aaron? Did he..." "He ran." "Ran?" Dad was stunned. "How could he run? You said you'd..." Aaron's glare cut him off. Dad instantly fell silent. Seeing Aaron angry, Dad turned toward me. I shook my head. "I didn't mean to." Wham! Dad kicked me so hard I rolled across the ground. "I knew it. You're no good. Just like your damned mother always trying to ruin me." He kept kicking me, stomping down with full force. Aaron just stood nearby, watching coldly. My dad looked like he was going to strangle me right there, when finally Aaron stepped between us. He said just one word. "Enough." Surprisingly, the always abusive man instantly obeyed. It was the kind of obedience born of bone-deep fear. My dad reluctantly pulled his hand back and looked at Aaron. "So what now? What do you think?" Aaron sighed bitterly. "You think he'll stop if you're alive? Tonight was the best chance. Now he's escaped and will soak in Earth energy again. How are we supposed to fight him?" "What about the craftsmen? Can't you summon them again?" As he said this, Dad shoved me forward. "Use her as bait. You said it yourself, the old man only wants to kill members of the Delaney family. She's perfect." I stared at him coldly. Under my gaze, he grew uneasy and raised his hand to strike me again. Aaron glared at him. "If Jennifer dies, he sheds another karmic tie. Then how would I stop him? Besides, the craftsmen are destroyed." I looked toward the altar. The 6 dolls were already broken into pieces, useless now. Borrowed power has limits. Today, the 6 Taoist spirits helped subdue the human ghoul using a sliver of power in the clay dolls. There's no borrowing again. Aaron spat. "All thanks to this little bastard." My dad shot me a vicious glare. Aaron sighed. "It's fate, cough, cough." He couldn't hold it anymore and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Quickly, He took out the paper roll and inhaled a few more times. My dad asked if Aaron could make another set of the 6 craftsmen. Given his skill, surely he could borrow power again. Aaron sneered. The Tao spirits require incense offerings. Without that, you can make 10 or 100, and they'll still be lifeless clay. Besides, the old man's skills surpass mine. I can't replicate what he knows. Otherwise, why else would he have figured out how to ascend? Aaron's tone was full of mockery. He said we couldn't stay here any longer. We had to head up to the mountain temple. There, he might still have a fighting chance. Aaron's so-called temple was more like a mortuary. It was run down, covered in cobwebs. Thick dust blanketed every room. In the backyard was a row of coffins, surrounded by numerous graves. These were the corpses Aaron had collected over the years. After some calculations, he said the ghoul, severely wounded, would definitely seek a corpse site to heal. 3 days later, at the yin hour, he would return. In other words, in 3 days, everything would be decided. Either Aaron nailed him down, or Grandpa would kill me and my dad, shed his mortal form, and become neither corpse nor immortal a monster. Inside the temple, I didn't see Aaron for 2 days. My dad locked himself in a room, too afraid to come out, mumbling constantly. The terror had drained him. His eyes were sunken. "It wasn't me, it's your fault. You tried to run. He murmured incoherently. But I could guess he was talking about my mom's disappearance. He shouted at me to get out, his eyes bloodshot, hands reaching to strangle me. I fled the room and sat on the temple steps. While walking, I suddenly heard someone calling my name, a woman's voice familiar. Who? I looked in the direction of the voice. Just a few yellow leaves on the ground. Maybe I misheard? Just as I thought that, the same voice came again from the same place. Jennifer, Jennifer, I jumped to my feet. After a moment's hesitation, I followed the sound. The voice drifted near and far, echoing around me. After a while, I came upon a secluded chamber in the back courtyard, pasted with yellow talismans. The area was empty, only that one structure standing alone, no other monks' quarters nearby. It looked completely out of place. I was sure it hadn't been here yesterday. I stood at the door for a while, thinking I shouldn't go in. Just as I was about to leave, the woman's voice came again. I was sure I'd heard it before. Unable to resist, I knocked on the door, no answer. I peeked through the window and saw a red-tinged blur, but couldn't make anything out. Right then, bang! Someone slammed the door from inside. I jumped back and asked, "Who's there?" I pressed my ear to the door and heard the voices of many children, some crying, some laughing, others running around. Why would there be children in a Taoist temple? Something felt very wrong. The banging grew louder, shaking the window frames. As if driven by some unseen force, I couldn't stop myself. I pushed the door open. It wasn't locked. Inside, the room was painted entirely in red. Dust covered everything. On the floor were countless small footprints, scattered chaotically, but not a single child in sight. I had clearly just heard children inside. He. I turned my head. Before me stood a massive altar, covered in hundreds of clay figurines. Each was shaped like a child, bound in red string. On their heads were stalks of lamp wicks, each flickering with a strange, dancing flame. Each of the childlike figurines bore a twisted, venomous expression, full of deep resentment. Just one glance filled me with waves of fear. "What are you doing here?" Aaron's voice rang out. He walked out from behind the altar, frowning. I stood there, frozen. "You saw everything?" he asked, stepping closer with the Vajra scepter in his hand. I shook my head in panic. Saw what? You don't understand? He looked suspicious. Your grandfather never taught you these things. I quickly shook my head.
He never taught us anything. He said it would only bring trouble.
Aaron gave me a look and warned, "Don't wander around. These clay figurines contain the souls of stillborn infants. Their resentment is deep. I'm preparing a ritual to release their malice," he went on, explaining. Really? I laughed coldly inside. To resolve resentment, you need red string to bind souls and black flame candles to draw them in. I silently turned and left. Before leaving, I glanced behind the altar. There was a curtain, and behind it were rows of jars covered in talismans. That night, my father's mental state grew worse. He bashed his head until it bled, screaming and begging Grandpa to spare him. I'd long suspected the one who truly wanted to become immortal wasn't my grandfather. That's why I'd knocked over the 6 craftsmen that night. Suddenly, my father seemed to hear something and ran outside screaming he never came back. I ran to find Aaron. "Aaron! Aaron!" I pounded on his door. No response. I thought of the chamber with the infant figurines. The door was closed. I pushed, it wouldn't budge. Just as I raised my hand to knock, click, it opened a crack. Inside, all 131 figurines were neatly arranged on the altar. Every single one was bound with red thread, their eyelids sewn shut, black soul-calling flames flickering atop their heads. Clang! Something behind the altar curtain shook. Dozens of jars rattled. I stepped into the inner room. There stood an unknown clay idol wrapped in red cloth. Beneath the shrine, aside from jars covered in black talismans, sat a coffin of bizarre shape. A hexagonal coffin, narrow at the top, wide at the bottom, adorned with cranes and spirit birds, the immortal's coffin. How was it here? Then what was the one Grandpa was buried in? The lid was slightly open. I summoned my courage and peered inside. Aaron! It was Aaron lying in the coffin. His eyes were half closed, showing the whites. His body looked frail and ancient, skin wrinkled, hair gray. Aaron had always looked around 40. How did he suddenly become a decrepit old man? I looked up. In the corner of the room stood a massive cabinet, wrapped in black ink lines and bound by 18 chains. 3 characters were scrawled across the cabinet. Flying Heaven Vault. Inside, a large male corpse was nailed in place by long command rods, a Vajra scepter piercing through his chest. Black mist swirling from the wound. It was my grandfather. The human ghoul version of Grandpa. Why was he pinned here? Before I could think further, I heard whispers coming from the jars behind me. Jennifer, Jennifer, Jennifer. That same familiar woman's voice. Who was it? I stepped up to a jar with a yellow talisman. Tears welled up, I remembered. That voice was my mother's. The remains inside wore the clothes my mother had on when she vanished. Her limbs had been broken and stuffed into the jar. She died in despair and agony. I fell to my knees, sobbing uncontrollably. All the jars around me began to shake. Dozens of jars trembled. The room filled with crying, shrieking, and wailing. Thud! From inside the coffin, Aaron extended a hand. He slowly sat up, no longer aged young again, his eyes sharp. So, you found out everything, huh? He said. I looked up at him. My uncle's family. The villagers, you killed them, didn't you? Aaron smirked and shook the bell in his hand. My father, dull-eyed, stumbled inside like a puppet. I spent my life cultivating, served as a Taoist for decades, helping countless people. And in the end, I was to die at 40. I couldn't accept it, it wasn't fair. So I raised infant spirits to prolong my life. and used women's yin energy to preserve my youth. I've lived 141 years, Aaron talked to himself, full of resentment and cruelty. He killed infants, butchered women, using their grudges to sustain himself. Now he'd suffered backlash, his yin depleted, organs failing. He needed a new, permanent way, immortality. To achieve it, he required the immortal's coffin and the heart of a human ghoul. 6 months ago, he discovered an immortal's tomb in the north, but he wasn't strong enough to open it. So he leaked the info to my grandfather. Grandpa knew such a find would spark chaos and bloodshed. He had to destroy the coffin himself. The tomb was full of traps and immortal's 9-death dragon-slaying formation. Grandpa was trapped for 11 days. He finally broke through, took the coffin, but was left gravely weakened. When he returned, he was too weak to destroy the coffin, so he told my uncle and father to do it. But Aaron purposely told them that if someone could ascend, their descendants would gain eternal life. My dad and uncle were tempted. They tricked Grandpa and buried him vertically in the Delaney ancestral ground with the coffin. Actually, your grandpa knew their thoughts. Deep down, he too had hope maybe he could ascend. That's why he didn't destroy the coffin himself. Still, he was smart enough to leave behind tools for you. That way, even if he became a ghoul, you'd still have a chance. Aaron glanced at the body nailed in the vault. If not for this Vajra scepter, I wouldn't have managed. Your grandpa is a ghoul, he's no small threat. He then reached over and twisted my father's neck off. Blood sprayed everywhere, splattering onto Grandpa's corpse, which instantly began to stir. Now, with you dead too, the Delaney line ends. The human ghoul sheds his karma, casts off his humanity. I'll take his heart, combine it with the coffin, and ha ha ha. I'll become immortal. Aaron cackled madly. You? Immortal? Do you even have the destiny for it? I threw his words back at him. Aaron's face darkened. Those infants, you killed them, didn't you? My mother too. All these innocent women and children, their vengeful souls will haunt you forever. You think you can ascend? Aaron snapped, grabbing my throat. He pressed a finger to my chest. They deserve to die. Your mother couldn't stand your father's beatings. She tried to run. He killed her. I just helped clean up. He roared, then slashed at my chest. As he tore through my skin, white smoke hissed from his hand. He was blasted backward in agony. On my chest, hundreds of blood glyphs lit up, carved into me by Grandpa, in his last moment of clarity during the vigil. Old bastard. You planned everything! Aaron howled in fury. He never expected Grandpa, even in death, to leave such a mark. Enraged, he lunged, clutching my throat. The blood runes scorched his arm, black smoke rising, but he didn't care. He threw me against the wall, shattering several jars. The bones of countless women spilled across the floor. Wails filled the room once more. Aaron advanced toward me. I smashed jar after jar, releasing their vengeful souls. You think ghosts can stop me? Aaron grabbed one with flowing black hair and swallowed it whole. I'm worse than any ghost. Oh, really? I threw a bunch of red strings on the ground. Aaron's face finally twisted in fear. When did you? Dozens of black, infant ghosts clung to him, biting and tearing. I'd removed the strings binding them on the altar outside before I came in. Aaron screamed in agony, dragging his ruined body toward me. Immortality! I must ascend! You, not in this lifetime. I turned and pulled the Vajra scepter from Grandpa's chest. The human ghoul opened his eyes, and Aaron was instantly swallowed by a torrent of killing aura. 3 days later, A man named Tony Camel arrived. I told him everything that happened. I said that night, I burned the entire temple down along with my grandfather. He studied me with suspicion. Do you believe anyone can really become immortal? I turned away and smiled. How could that be? The immortal's coffin is gone. Li Yin looked at me. That wasn't an immortal's coffin, he said. Just a decoy. As for the real one, he pointed, it's in Kunlun.